Hello everybody, and thanks for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to be going over a recap of my December expenses, and I'm also going to be talking about my year-end review for 2023. So let's get into it. Whether it's at the end of the month or at the end of the year, I like to sit down with all of my expenses, what I've made, and see if where my money is going is also aligning with my goals. It just so happens that it's a new year, and after the 2 days of assessing my situation with all of my expenses, this has shifted my financial goals just a little bit, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. So for now, let's go ahead and get started on the last month's expenses. If you guys haven't already downloaded my budget planner, make sure you do so. In the description below, I have a download link for my monthly planner, so you can get that for free. I have already gone through my expenses, but I didn't really think that would be super exciting. That's just more of me assessing what's going on with where my money is going and like how it can get better. So I thought I'd just talk to you a little bit more about what are the opportunities that I've had moving forward with how I spent my money this last month. Now for my fixed expenses, if you've already seen my other videos, you'll get an idea of what I put my money towards on a monthly basis. One of the things that I did have on my fixed expenses was the Spotify membership, which in light of the no spend year, I felt that was an unnecessary expense for me to have. So I went and canceled that subscription so I wouldn't have that moving forward in 2024. Now I also do have a gym membership, which I'm currently on pause right now until after my surgery. So in March, I'll be joining that gym again. So for now, I'm just focusing on my health and getting better and preparing for that surgery. Now for my variable budget, I'll just put that on the screen so that you can kind of visualize all of the things that I'm saying here. But for my gas, my budget was $2.30 and my actual was about $83 and some change. I didn't really spend a lot just because I wasn't driving my car as much, but we were still spending a lot of gas money to and from work. Now for my groceries, my budget was $600 for this month. It was under $600 at $578 and some change. My money ended up moving towards other categories in this month because of in light of the holidays. For the dogs, my budget was $130, but I spent only $17 just on some treats, just because my mom had already bought the dog food in this month. Now for my meals, my budget was $0, but I did end up spending a little bit under $22 for 2 days of buying meals because we just didn't either have enough time to cook or prepare food for that day, or we were in a time crunch. So those are usually the times where I consider it okay to spend money on food, because we wouldn't be able to get any kind of nutrition any other way if we don't spend money. For the drinks category, my budget was also $0. In preparation for the no spend 2024, I did end up spending $5.50 for a drink. Fortunately, I did use that amount on a gift card that I still have. If I do end up getting a drink, I will be using a gift card to be able to purchase that. So it's not technically coming out of my pocket anymore because I'd already purchased that gift card a while ago. But it was still a waste of money. So yeah. Now for my medical expense, I did budget $100 for this. I ended up spending $43.80. That was just to get more pills and for a copay for a doctor's appointment that I did have. Now for this medical expense, I do use a YSA card, which is a health spending account. If you have this benefit through your employer, I definitely recommend you getting a spending account, just because all of the money that you put aside or choose to put aside for this account is pre-tax money that you're putting aside. So it actually takes away from your taxable income, which helps with your taxes. And it's also a great way to be able to have that money ready for you at the beginning of the year. I definitely recommend that if you have that option through your employer. The next category that I have is for gifts. Now my budget on this one was $150, and with the holidays around the corner, I did want to not have to spend money on gifts just because I don't live close to my family anymore. But because my mom ended up flying back to California, I ended up splurging a little bit and spending some money so that I can give my family gifts. And I just get carried away with gift giving sometimes. So I ended up spending $424 and some change. So that's definitely over my budget. But it was definitely worth it still, whether it's spending time with them or being able to give them something. It's definitely something that I still love to do. Now for my next category is for work. My budget was for this was zero, but I did end up spending, and I'm gonna put this expense in this category, which I spent $271 and some change. I ended up purchasing a MacBook in this situation just because I needed one for editing and for work, just to make my life a little bit easier. Now that MacBook didn't cost $271, this is what I spent out of pocket after I returned some items. And some of them were Christmas presents that my aunts do know that I was returning, so they are aware of the situation. And it was a really great deal at the time. And if this fixes my problem, then I don't have to end up spending more than the $271 that I did for this MacBook. So that's the other expense in my variable budget that I did end up spending money on. Now for my sinking funds, since we did get paid 3 times this month, I did put $150 towards my emergency fund, and I also put $100 towards my medical fund during that first paycheck. For the second paycheck, I put $179 towards my medical fund, and for the third paycheck, I put $250 towards my medical fund. That is going to be my priority moving forward until that bill comes in. I still have some time to be able to build up my sinking fund for that and not go into debt. And since we're not going to get paid until the second week of January, I put money from my funds for this paycheck towards my rent, and I'm putting aside money for any other expenses that's going to come up, like my groceries or any other variable expenses that I might need to take care of, like gas and so forth, before my first paycheck comes in January. Okay, so now for my end of year review. Now my take-home pay for 2023 was just a little over $17,000, which roughly averages to about $1,400 a month, which is pretty crazy compared to how much I'm spending on variable things. So it's like last month alone, I spent $1,400 on my variable expenses. Now my take-home pay is $1,400, which is freaking ridiculous. This is why budgeting is probably the most important thing that I can do right now. And it could be for you too. If you haven't gone through your numbers, if you haven't seen what you're actually taking home, it's pretty wild. You definitely don't want to go into debt at the end of the year because you're either not making enough money or you're spending too much money. It's one or the other, right? Now you can still enjoy life and budget at the same time. Budgeting is not going to take fun away from your life. It's only going to allow you to be able to spend that money without having to feel bad about that because you put that money aside specifically for that thing. And you definitely don't want to go into debt. You don't want to be blindsided by an emergency, like going into the emergency room, getting your tires blown out. Those things cost $1,000 plus, That's why having an emergency fund is so important, because of things that can just come up. Not only that, but the no spend in 2024 is going to be so important because this is going to basically level everything out and just really reset everything, get everything right, and figure out what I want to spend my money on instead of just buying things for no reason and wasting your money on certain things that you don't necessarily have to spend money on. Now I do have side hustles that I generate income from. One of those is my Etsy account. I'll link the description below if you want to check that out. But I basically sell like paper goods, ephemera things, stationery things that I like to do. But for this side hustle, it's pretty low. I only took home about $2,400. This is probably the lowest that it's ever been. That's just due to, moving from one house to another. Everything was in storage. I couldn't really focus on making more things with the light of all the stuff that's happening. I was focusing on my health a little bit more this year. So that's just how it was. That's just the numbers, and this is the reality of it, right? So overall, with my side hustle and with my take home for my day job, my total take home was about a little under $2,300, which averages monthly at about $1,900. So 1900. So having this number in mind, this is really going to set where my budget should be under and how I can try to save money in the upcoming year or make more money. So this is definitely something that I'm adding to my goals for 2024. There's definitely some brainstorming that I'm gonna have to do to try to implement some new habits and execute some things to be able to get to that goal. So we're gonna talk about that in other videos, but for now, let's talk about our financial goals. Besides doubling my side hustle income to $11,700, I also want to continue to max out my Roth IRA for 2023 and for 2024. Now, if you don't know what a Roth IRA is, it is something that you can contribute post-tax, and you can max it out at $6,500. Now, the 2023 contribution is not done yet. You have until April to be able to contribute to your Roth IRA. And I currently have about $1,000 contributed on there, but we still got 4 months to be able to put money aside for 2023 and start on 2024. So I think I can definitely get there. I just got to figure out how to do that. But don't fret. If this is a plan of yours as well, it's definitely something that you can either create sinking funds for or just double down on no spend year and get your money to where it needs to go. And that's my third goal, right? To do the no spend year. If you haven't already seen my other videos, I'm talking about the no spend year and how exciting it's really gonna be. And I hope you guys are joining me. And with that being said, seeing where your spending habits and if they're really aligning with your financial goals for 2024, and ask yourself, are your spending habits aligning with your goals for your future? Not just for your financial goals, but for all of your goals for your 2024 and moving forward. So with that being said, thanks for watching this video. I hope you like it and catch me on the next one. Whoop!